to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. You know, since March, we've had several conversations about COVID, from the impact it has had on our businesses to the opportunities it's created for our businesses and just about everything in between. And today, we're going to dig a little deeper into the mental health side, in particular, how it has affected and as it relates to running our businesses, right? So how do you, as CEO, as the business owner, acknowledge and respect the impact that the pandemic has had on our employees while still trying to keep your business moving forward and keep everything on track? Okay, I know that this has been a struggle for many of you. I've gotten the emails about it, all right? Well, my guest today, Dr. Colleen Mullen, has some excellent strategies to help us do exactly this. I was actually a guest on her podcast, Coaching Through Chaos, where we had a discussion about this particular point. We hit the point in the pandemic where we had to move forward with our businesses, our families, and our lives, and that's a tricky slope sometimes. And I talked about how we adapted and figured out the ways to reduce risk and to adjust to the delays that we're facing and the problems that the physical distancing has presented. But the mental health side, for so many of us, is still with us. It's not something that just goes away. And as the leader of your business, whether it means you're the owner of your business or the head of the family or a person of authority in any capacity, we have to find the way to bridge the gap between moving forward and understanding the toll it takes on us and those around us. Colleen understands this line better than most of us. She is a therapist known for her unique application of chaos theory to understanding the process of change. In her private practice, Coaching Through Chaos, she helps her patients find the balance, helps them deal with the changes that they're facing, and helps them come out stronger. All right. Now, Colleen knows how important it is to show up as a strong leader and still find ways to adapt to the needs of those around you. If you're struggling to keep your leadership on track and maintain your business through the chaos, then you probably should check out My Doma Studio. Right now, we are all swamped with so many decisions, from the way we deal with employees to the way we speak to our customers. So much has changed. Well, My Doma is your designer's toolkit that keeps you organized even through the chaos. The workflow software helps you organize design projects from beginning to end. And with a thriving design community, you'll never feel like you're facing business on your own. Go to mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business to get started. That's mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. Okay, let's talk with Colleen about showing up as a leader and relating to our employees in this time of chaos. Hi, Colleen. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Well, thanks for having me on, Luann. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here too. Interestingly, we met because you invited me to be on your show, which I had an excellent time, and we'll put the link in the show notes for that. But we hit it off, and I said to myself, oh my goodness, this lady has things that we need to know. So we had to get you on our show, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the thing is that when we first met, it was right at the beginning of COVID, and off air, we talked a little bit about some of the troubles that I was experiencing and witnessing in my employees, my children who are grown adults, and the idea of navigating it and of needing to respect everybody and the way they process things, but also needing to still run your business or still, have all the kids in the family happy with each other, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, and you said to me, I have a lot of things on this. I have a lot of things that I could speak to you about and help you go through, because if you're going through it, then probably many of the people in your community are going through it as well. So, talk to us a little bit about, just open it up and get us started on how you want to frame this conversation, Colleen.
Sure. Well, with COVID, I mean, this is such a strange time, and we have people are anxious to get back to work, whether they own the business or they need their job to afford to live. And yet we have people that, I mean, people are registering this stuff as trauma because it is traumatic, and it's spurring a lot of anxiety. And I thought it'd be helpful to talk about, if as a business owner, would you recognize if one of your employees was struggling emotionally, with anxiety or some fears? And figure we can talk about how they might look, what the business owner can do to help them along. Because there's so many things going on as far as, there was a survey I found that 53% of adults reported that their mental health had been negatively impacted by COVID stress. That's 53% of the adults surveyed, but we already know like 70% of Americans have already been traumatized at some point in their life. And when we have trauma, and then we have a new trauma, it can wake up old stuff. So for what one person is experiencing, it may look like someone else has gone totally haywire because maybe they've been through other traumas and this has woken up some old symptoms. And yet the other person is like, this is probably like the worst rough patch they've had in life. So they have a little bit of anxiety, but they don't understand why the other person is like pulling out the stops with the symptoms that make it look like they really are not functioning well.
That right there
Mhm.
is a very enlightening concept right there. Because if you, as the business owner,
Yeah.
have not had significant trauma
Mhm.
in your life,
Yeah.
but one of your employees has, and you're not aware of it, right? Why
Mhm.
would you necessarily be aware of it? And that employee seems to be handling it much less capably than other employees or yourself. If we don't have this awareness that we really don't know everybody's path, and we can't know that how one thing stacks on an old thing,
Mhm.
that's how we can miss the signals, and or not we're seeing the signal but miss the importance of the signal, it sounds like, right?
That's right. That's right. Because the signal is not going to necessarily say I'm anxious or I'm scared. It might show as I'm really irritable, and you don't understand why that person all of a sudden like can't stop snapping at customers, or
Mm.
or they might be really withdrawn, and yet you knew they wanted to come back to work, but they're all of a sudden not engaging with everybody. And even, when we're talking about everybody still being socially distanced, people are kind of happy to see familiar faces, and there are people that are just going to withdraw. So, before we go into all of that, though, I thought it'd probably be good to kind of talk about how some of the symptoms that people are dealing with.
Mm.
There's like chronic loss of sleep because people have had a hard time regulating their sleep patterns. And, I have a broad mix of clients. Most hold some sort of professional position or are the business owners. And then I happen to have a few teachers. And I found that like the teachers in particular who got to just, and I don't mean just, the teachers are doing a hard job, and many of them do not like the remote education part of it,
Mm.
but
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have to interact with some of their classes live for some of the grades that, at least from the small sample, I would talk to. And so they would video record and then put it up on a website. And this allowed them to really indulge anxiety, to indulge like insomnia. And they would just, kind of say, well, I was up till 4 in the morning today, and I got up at 12 and I recorded something. And then they can't get themselves back on the sleep schedule. So we have like that kind of like chronic, like inability to self-regulate, like how do I put myself to
Mm.
bed at 10 when I don't have to get up at 6 in the morning?
Mm.
There's that. There's the overeating, oversleeping. Everybody was talking about, like, literally, I know health coaches are like, oh, well, they even gained, the COVID, they didn't gain the COVID-19, but, that they're joking about, like, that's, gaining like the freshman 15, right?
Right, right.
Uh, and others, I'm happy to say myself, got on the kick of like, I'm not going to have that happen. I actually kicked my diet into gear and I finally started losing weight after like 4 years of trying. I've lost like 30 pounds now. So I'm very
Good
happy.
for you.
Thanks.
Wow.
And then worse, and then, but people's have chronic conditions also. So people that have been dealing with like backaches and other things, joint pains, when you're stressed, your body releases, this is not my scope of practice, but like the cortisol and the things that cause inflammation. And so you have extra pain. And so that goes with the lack of sleep, lack of like eating properly, social isolation, causes stress to people, which can then cause the body to be inflamed. And so you might find that people have been complaining about physical complaints more on the job. Um,
Mm.
and then alcohol. Like I can't talk about what isolation has done without talking about this crazy statistic that I found last week or so, or a month ago, that I'd heard early on in COVID that like sales at liquor stores were up 30%.
Mm.
Early on in like April or something. We'd only been closed since March, right? So we're a month in at that point. But I found a number that said that online alcohol sales are up 330% since
Whoa.
this time last year. Like it's
Wow.
crazy how much alcohol people are consuming through this. So,
Wow.
so you have a lot of people secretly drowning themselves too. And
Mm.
and then you have the people that are worried, when we talk about the job site, people are worried about what they're going to bring home because I think of those grocery clerks and how many of these young, like for the young ones that are there, how many of them live with a parent or a grandparent, or how many of the older ones are worried about what they're going to get and or bring home to their partner or their parents that they might be having in the same house. I've thought about the grocery workers a lot, and hope that they are being taken care of by their stores. But yeah, that's my own empathy coming out. But
Yeah, no, I mean, but the thing is, I think that it's so funny because we had from the beginning at Window Works,
mhm,
with with a staff of 10, 12, whatever we were at the beginning of COVID, it is enough people to see how differently people react. If you had a
mhm,
staff of two or three, maybe you had two or three people that kind of take things the way you take them, whatever that is, positive or negative. But the point is that with that many people, it was clear from the first week
mhm,
that there were different reactions and different things happening.
mhm,
And I remember the three of us as partners, we had to have a conversation about that right off the bat, and I think I even shared in one of the episodes that my cousin Eileen Hahn, who is coaches us at WindowWorks, my
mhm,
husband and myself and our cousin Bill. One of the first meetings she said to us was, "You need to be clear that different people will handle this differently, and the three of you have to decide." Where are you on that? Are you going to allow people grace to
mhm,
handle this the way they can, or what? Like, what are you going to do? Like,
mhm.
how are you? And really what she was just really saying to us is, I know the three of you are caring human beings, but you probably aren't expecting this. So let me cue you in
Yeah.
and let you be prepared to think about this before it's in your face so that you don't do something really rude and upsetting to people that you care about, right?
Yeah, there's all those, right? Those things people say to make people kind of feel better or try to like lift them up a little bit, and they can be hurt, misconstrued and or felt like dismissed. So that
Right.
was that was a good way of her putting that. And because we have the trauma, the anxiety, and then I forgot to mention the grief, right? There's a lot of grief going on, and not
Yes.
just for like the loss of lives. There is that grief, which is horrific, but there's all the grief of everything else, like the weddings that aren't happening in the way that they thought they were going to be, or at all.
Yeah.
I was supposed to do my big 50th birthday in Barcelona. It was going to be my first trip to Europe. And like, of course that went out the
Wow.
window. And so like, but, but you have to like, look at like, I'm like, well, if that's my worst problem out of this, thankfully so far, like, I don't have much to complain about. But there are other people that don't get that, like Barcelona will be there in a couple of years when I want to go back, right? There's
Right.
other people that are like, yeah, but that was significant for me and I didn't get to do it. And maybe they have had a life where they just don't get like their leg up on things. So they have a
Hmm.
feeling of always just everything is such a struggle and they looked forward to something and it just didn't happen. And that's a real grief. And then we even have relationships that are literally, coming apart at the seams. One of the like most kind of like curious phenomenons I've seen like in my practice has been, I've always done couples work for years. I do individuals and couples. And um, I'll get couples occasionally that are like married 20 years and trying to figure out how do we like live out the next 20 a little differently and stuff like that, or how do we not split up and things. But I literally have had like three or four sets of customers, clients, I should say, who are married in the 35 to 45-year range. And that have like, so we're talking people in their late 60s, early 70s looking for relationship therapy. And it was kind of like, yes, of course they were retired already, but like with the doors closing on everything in the world, where they didn't have their little clubs that they would go to or their
Mm.
exercise classes, and it was just the two of them at home, it really kind of woke up anything they ever got annoyed about with each other. So it's been that's been a strange and thankfully, a situation that like that one's easy to kind of like get these people who have been together for a lifetime already, kind of patch them back up and send them on
Mm.
their way. But that's been interesting that I don't think I've ever had people over 35 years married in the practice. And all of a sudden they're coming out. I'm like, really? And my first
Right.
thought is, what am I going to teach you after 40 years of marriage? But,
But
but
you know what? A lot of people don't deal with their
yeah.
stuff. And then it's like what I say about our businesses. When your business is stressed, when it
Hmm.
is, under stress financially too low or under stress financially too much business, it reveals the cracks. It's
Hmm.
like, we're going through it at WindowWorks when, we are experiencing major growth and it is just like, oh, these are the places that are broken. Like,
Yeah.
oh, right. And it's the same with relationships too. I mean, for me personally, there's interesting things in my extended circle of family and friends that were interesting with relationships.
Hmm.
One couple had just one partner had just presented the other partner with divorce papers the week before
Yep.
the quarantine began, and then had to go through the entire quarantine together. Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
and so, but what the any interesting thing is that if the quarantine had lasted probably maybe only 2 or 3 weeks, it might have exacerbated the actual thing that what they were
Hmm.
going through. Because of course, by the time you serve papers, you've been going through this for months, right?
Yeah.
But what happened was because the quarantine lasted so long, they actually got to the point where they were and continue to communicate at a level that they haven't in probably 2 or 3 years because there was no, I'm going to slam the door and walk out.
Yeah.
It's like, and so that was an interesting thing that I noticed in one of our extended family and relationship friends circle. And then I had others where they were like what you said. It's like, oh, without being able to go out every day and do all of this, it was mostly there was a couple of couples that we have that their both spouses are retired
Hmm.
in our circle of friends. And all of a sudden it was like, whoa, all day, every day, like this is nuts, right?
Yeah.
And then Vin and I, we always come back to when we're like, we could do this. Like we're good, and we always say we're good, and people always think and look at us so we're good, but we actually are good. And we were all through COVID. It was like, okay, every day at 4:30 we go for a walk, and then I go back to work, and you watch watch the news, and like we
Yeah.
just had this whole routine. And for us, yes, it was a fun little weird period of time. I have
Yeah,
to say.
and I love hearing, right, there is those great stories that come out of this, that people patched up relationships, that people figured out like maybe what their next move was going to be because a business that, there's the stories of the businesses that were maybe just barely getting by, and the person was staying
Mm,
open just for the sake of hope, maybe not,
of not closing.
not
Right.
closing, right? Not,
Right.
the F word, right? The failing, right? As they
Right.
say, but and then deciding, oh, right, but I can do something new, and deciding what the
Yeah.
next step is, and the relationships that work. And I'm in the same boat as you. I don't have the longevity on my partnership as you do with your husband, but my guy and I, like, it's been really nice. And I also live with I have a disabled sister who I take care of, and she's not physically disabled. It's like having she's always my little sister. It's an emotional
Oh.
thing, but she's only a year younger, and so I'm sort of pseudo, sister mother to her.
Mm,
And it's been amazing. Like I was like, oh gosh, what is going to happen to us? Because it was like, what are we all going to do in this place? And
right.
it's actually something like I've kind of enjoyed. It's helped me. Um, my I've been able to see more clients, like literally, because I'm doing Zoom and phone sessions, and I have a higher capacity for who I see, because I'm not working till 8 o'clock at night. I'm working from 8 till 5 or 6 if I need to, and
Mm-hmm.
rather than working till every late night, because I'm seeing people after work hours. And so it's
Mm.
allowed me to actually see
Oh,
more people than
interesting.
before. So yeah, so it helped me shift and even think about, like, maybe this is going to be a permanent move, just to be remote with clients. So
Right. Right. Right.
yeah, so
Right.
anyway, so there's lots of positive things that have come out of this too. A lot of innovation, a lot of creativity also. And then there are those businesses that are doing well in this. And it's almost like there's like, you know, I think some people are even like a little afraid to say they've done well through this.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I know she's a vendor. She owns a store that does like embroids, logos on shirts, on golf hats, and things like that. Promotional products.
Mm.
And early on in COVID, like she had, I think, one of like her worst, few weeks in all the years of business. And then she kind of pivoted and was like, well, she tapped into a market of pulling in the masks from somewhere, and all of a sudden she had like skyrocketing months because people needed the
Mm.
masks. And now that it seems like they're going to be with us for a long time, she's now getting into even putting logos on them for companies of certain sizes and stuff. So it has shifted. Now she's actually doing some promotional items again, that we're back to work
Right.
primarily.
Right.
So yeah, lots of interesting stuff going on. But the people who are suffering are not really saying that they're suffering. They're trying to, a lot of them are putting on a good face.
And that's the tough
Yeah.
part, right? And I have to say, I feel like there's a spot here for the other layer of the conversation, which is the bear that 2020 has been
Mhm.
in other areas. So, starting with, we have the different things that are happening in the Black Lives Matter movement, where we have the
Mhm.
killings of George Floyd
Yeah.
and Breonna Taylor and stuff. And so, when you add that layer to it, and, whether
Mhm.
you are like, I have a young Black man that works for us at Window Works,
Mhm.
and here you've got the COVID on top of it. And then it's not possible for me to really put myself in his place and understand how those events are piling on him as well. And the only thing I can do is, well, and maybe you'll teach me something, but so far I've only thought, just be aware that that is a real thing for him, on top of everything that you're not processing necessarily
Mhm.
the way he is, and to be sensitive to it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I remember I sat him down in the beginning. I was like, "How are you?"
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is, and that's a really good point. It's not just pandemic. It's social justice. It's a extremely divisive political year,
Yeah.
and we've got. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think any of us have seen anything more divisive than uh, the other things that are going on
I
in the
know.
world, and or in our world here in the U.S. Um, and so with that, right, I mean, part of this um for business owners right now, it's about being aware, being sensitive, recognizing that, right, you can be empathetic, but you're still not going to understand what somebody else is going through. And when they give you a chance to listen to them, that's an opportunity to understand them better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and to really make sure that if somebody is saying, hey, I'm struggling, or I need a day off, it's just been really a lot, I need a day off. Like, if your business didn't crumble, like, you're probably not going to miss out by having them
Mm.
be out for a shift, and have them take a day off. Like
You know,
figure
it's
out how to
funny.
take care of them.
It's funny that you say that
Uh-huh.
because 2 Fridays ago, now a month ago I did a show, or 2 months ago I did a show that is really like laying out how slammed window works has been and how difficult it's been for all of us.
Uh-huh.
And I'm the one who has been assigned the hard conversation phone call. Every customer that's upset that their product is late, every customer
Oh.
that's upset that they're getting canceled, that's my job to make that phone call. And it's it's
Mm.
it's always been the admin's job, right? But it's
Mhm.
so many calls now. It's such a big deal. It is so overwhelming
Yeah.
that I wouldn't even want one of my employees to have that burden, okay? And
Mhm.
also too, there's a little layer of it is that when you have nothing but bad news for somebody,
Mhm.
human nature knows if you're not talking to the one that the buck stops with, you tend to carry on and get a little bit crazier than you would
Mhm.
because you're venting. But if you're talking with the owner, you recognize that whatever decision I make is the decision. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so that's why it felt like the three of us were like, you got to take this, right?
Uh-huh.
So I've been doing it, right? And the thing is though that I'm dealing firsthand with delivering consistently late because production is consistently delayed at the factories because the factories are at less capacity.
Mhm.
And 2 weeks ago on a Friday, our installers came in. Now, they knew that they had volunteered to work on a Saturday, and they had a particularly hard day on a Friday. It was 7:15 at night. They're supposed to get done at 5:30, and my husband and I are sitting there every Friday night. We don't leave until the last installer's truck is, signed out for the night.
Uh-huh.
Not because of signing out, but it's just like to us, it's like a solidarity thing. Unless
Mhm.
I'm out of town, it's if you're still working, I'm here, right?
That's nice.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and I always have something I can do, by the way. So it's not like I'm twiddling my
Of
thumbs.
course.
But I am waiting for their little eyeballs to come through the stairs so I can say, okay, we're going to the bar, Nagara. See you, bye. Right? But anyway, so this one particular night, and the one installer must have forgotten that he had said, because they're not mandatory to work Saturdays. We asked to sign up for certain Saturdays.
Mhm.
And so as he was getting ready to leave, I said to him, hey, by the way, so tomorrow morning, I put your appointment a little later. We'll start at 10 instead of at 9. And there's only 2 projects in. You'll probably be done in the early afternoon. And I basically, in my mind, earlier in the day, I knew what kind of week he had.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to make the Saturday easier, right?
Uh-huh.
But he literally, physically, like sunk, like
Mm.
his shoulders. And he just looked at me. I said, what? And he goes, it just was such a hard week. And I said, no, I know. That's why I made it an easier day. I said, but, we said we were working Saturday. We're behind. And he's like, all right, I'll be here. And he walked out the door, and I looked at my husband and I said, I'm going to call and cancel the appointments. He goes, huh? And I said, he's exhausted.
Mhm.
He's shot. He has been doing this. And he just looked at me and he said, I think you're right. He goes, go ahead. And he goes, and what are you going to say? I said, I haven't figured that out yet. And so, and then I get on the phone and, I literally said to both of them, I said, I made a huge mistake. I said, we don't work Saturdays. I said, I was looking at the Saturday calendar. I said to you tomorrow, but I don't have guys tomorrow. I'm really sorry. It's a mistake on my part. And then one was fine and the other was crazy. And I was like, be crazy all day.
Mhm.
And then I called this kid and I said, stay home and rest. And he said, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
You're a
the thing
boss.
is, from a business standpoint,
Yeah.
I should not have done that. These people, they were waiting 7, 8, 9 weeks for their product. But I just looked at him and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, he's done, right? He's
Yeah.
fried.
Right. And right, you have 2 sides of this coin to weigh, and that was really a good move and was the right move to make as the business owner. And your reputation, what you're able to give your customers, and right? And you've learned along the way. You're not going to please everybody. And
Right.
in this situation, I mean, one of the things that threw me was exactly the kind of things that you talked about, like I remember people were complaining that they'd go to Lowe's and order something, and like it was going to take 10 weeks to get an appliance. And I'm like, well, do they not get that everything is closed? Like, who do they think is putting that on a truck, and who do they think is bringing that in? So
I know.
it's one of these things that when you have people that person who reacts to you, right? That
Hmm.
person also has a situation that we don't know about. And that
Right.
person
Yeah.
might have, like their expectations, like sometimes we think, well, if the only thing I can do is like expect that my house at least looks neat, then we work really hard at keeping our house neat when we feel like the rest of the world is crazy. And
Right.
we don't know what you walked into when you canceled that appointment. It might have been the fifth cancellation of something. It might have been the 10th, delay of something,
Exactly.
or it just might have been that she was being let down of her expectations, which there's just so much of that. It seems like, well, it's just a set of blinds, lady. Like, but to
Right.
her, it was like it was going to change her living room, and she was going to look at a different wall for the week.
Yep.
And so that's why, like, I mean, we have like it can seem so, it can seem selfish, people's reactions, it can seem unwarranted, and it can seem like oblivious. And then there's also reasons why people want to hold on to like being in denial. Like, why would this
Mm.
be delayed?
I've
And
had that.
when we
I've
say he had
had
a hard
like,
week, well, he's an
let me
installer. Of course he
explain
had a
it
hard
to
week,
you.
but they're holding on to denial of, that this is even happening or impacting their life, right? And
I
so
know.
we always have to, there's that saying, that meme that goes around, be nice and smile at people when you walk past them, because you don't know what's going on in their life or what's going on in their world. And it's never been more true as it is in the world
Hmm.
that we're living in right now.
It's so true. And it's a funny thing because I would say if I've made 100 hard phone calls in the last 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks, honest to God, I can count on one hand the number of people that have just been like, I totally get it. It's fine.
That's great.
It's not a big deal.
Yes.
Honest to God, on one hand.
Hmm.
And what's funny is one of those ladies I just spoke to yesterday, and we've had to. And here's what happens, because it's like Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
Not only does the person wait, but then you get all the way there. This one customer is an hour and a half away. We get all the way there. We find out, oh, we actually can't finish the project because something was missing from the box or something.
Hmm.
Then we have to reschedule her, and it takes me 10 days to get her in the calendar again because we're so slammed. We get all the way there. They find out, I don't know, there was some other crazy
Yeah.
thing they found out. They can't do it with one guy. They need two guys. Oh my gosh, right?
Hmm.
So then another time she's scheduled, and then one of my guys calls out sick, but I can't do it with one guy because it takes two guys, right? And the thing is, it turned out that the one installer, everybody knows that my one installer fell off a ladder and broke his ankle. He's been out for 6 weeks, so we won't have him back till January. But what everybody doesn't know is, also in between this, I have this young guy who's been working for us off and on about 8 years. He is only in his mid-30s, and over a 10-day period, he missed about 4 or 5 days of work because his hands were hurting him so bad, and he didn't understand why. Well, it turns out in the middle of all this, he was just recently diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis.
Oh.
And he just was like, my hands are hurting so bad I can't come to work. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta come to work. Like, you have to come to work, please.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm looking, that was like, we're looking like there's one man standing. Like, we started with five, there's one standing. But anyway, so this one customer that we get out there one time, something wasn't right. We get out there a second time, we need two guys. Then we have to cancel her because he can't come in. Then we go out there, we're scheduled again, and another job runs over. And I literally called her yesterday to give her an appointment. And I said to her, it's Luann again at Window Works. She's like, hi, Luann, how are you? And I said, before I say anything, can I just tell you, you have been so kind and so sweet and so patient that I just want to call you every day just for like a check-in, like for my like. And she says, "Oh my goodness, Luann, we love you guys at Window Works. Don't you think twice about it?" I said, "I know, but I really feel like we've been testing that love a lot lately." She goes, "It's not possible," and I was like, "Oh my God," you know what I mean? And so there are those people that get it,
Hmm.
but to your point, when somebody isn't kind, it could be because of everything else in their world and having not a whole lot to do with
Yeah.
the window treatments or the awnings that they're waiting for, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the thing is now, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, Colleen, is I have had designers say to me that they have employees that the rest of their team is back to work, that their office is open, they are observing the protocols for COVID, but they have random employees that are just saying, no, it's great that you're open, but I'm not willing to do it. And so talk to us a little bit about the management and the handling of that, because if it impacts the rest of the team, if one person doesn't want to come, now we're in this tightrope of being a human being that recognizes
Mhm.
what's real for somebody, but having to actually deal with the boots on the ground and what's happening in our business. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it is a really tough place to be in. And I do have some, guidelines for, how to be a strong leader in this and help your
Mm,
team kind of build back morale and things like that. But when you have that person who just isn't ready, number one, we've got to know that there is something not being said about what the fear is. And, you know, so it's on one hand, it's time to talk to them in ways that maybe you may not have talked with them before, where you kind of check in and say like I really want to understand this, right? Can you help me understand, because we've taken the
mm,
precautions, and and I get that there's fear. Is there something that I'm missing about your situation, right? Because and it's to understand them better rather than to find something to go, oh, well, I don't know, to use against them, right? So
mm,
you want to know, right? And you say, but you can't say, are you worried about somebody at home? But you can say, hey, help me understand this, and then hopefully they'll give you the answer. Maybe they, well, I have to go and deliver food to my elderly grandmother every other day, and I really just couldn't if I brought the virus into her home,
mm,
right? And you say, okay, well, then how were you wondering that we might solve this, right? And you start looking, has this person thought anything other than just, I'm just not going to go back to work, right? Like, and have they thought of alternatives? Is this a time, is there a place to negotiate about what you can and can't do? Because there will be employers where there is flexibility. Now you're running a service business with products and installations and things like that. And if you've got an installer who has that, there's not a lot of negotiation on that, except to say, well, what were you proposing the solution be? And if they say, well, we've already been home for 8 weeks. Can you give me 4 more to just figure this out, or 3 more, and see where I'm at then before we have to make a decision? Maybe you're able to do that. I don't know.
mm-hmm,
Like, it will have
mm-hmm.
to look at what kind of business, what's their role at the business. Is there stuff that they can do from home? Is there something at the workstation that can be made more accommodating if need be? And but I don't think I think it's tough for people are who have their own livelihoods and others' livelihoods riding on the business being back and running smoothly. I don't think until they understand what somebody's dealing with that they can really look at it from a place of empathy to go, what could I do in this situation? What do I have the capacity to do? But I think that there's room for conversations, at least, so that you don't have a contentious situation where somebody's like, oh, my boss just thinks I need to get back out there and do this and whatever. When really, maybe there's an installer who says, you know what, I know how to run the back end of the office, and I know that you need help. Let me do that for 2 weeks, please, and see how it goes. Right? Maybe there's room for that. I don't know. So,
Right.
so there's that kind of um, conversations where normally you're not, when somebody's saying, hey, I need a day off, it's just like, well, I'm taking PTO, and you get to go, okay, well, you have PTO coming to you. But in this case, when they're saying, well, I still need to stay home and I want to stay on the job, or then it's kind of reaching in a little bit further and going, and how do I best understand this? Because
Right.
because everybody has their fears. And for well, I can't say everybody, but there's a general population of people that are concerned about getting it, and or concerned about transmitting it. And so having that conversation would be important as a starting point to go, what am I even capable of doing, or what could I be
Mm-hmm.
willing to doing that I haven't thought about yet?
Mm-hmm. Well, I like the idea of really just saying that. What are your thoughts on this? How did first of all, understanding, help me
Hmm.
understand why you're feeling this way, or help me understand what you're feeling in regard to this situation. What is it that you're experiencing, right?
Hmm.
But then I love that next step of, do you have ideas on how you could continue to work here and still make yourself feel comfortable
Hmm.
with what your criteria is, right?
Hmm.
Because I have a friend who shares an office with someone, and they have just decided that, I'll go in from 8 to 2 and you go in from 2 to 6. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yes.
And it's only one day that they share the office. They have, on the other days, they do need to be in the building on the one day. I don't know what it all is,
Hmm.
but they worked it out, is
Yeah.
the point, right?
Yeah.
um and the boss was willing to do that. It was like, okay, no problem. One of the other things that happened with us at Window Works is that we had one employee that is a part-time design sales assistant, and when we went back, she was the last to come back. But then when she came back, she was like, I'm ready, it's good. And we were like, it's fine, whenever you're ready to come back, come back. But then after a few weeks, despite the different protocols that were in place, she just said, I'm not comfortable. And it was, for her, it was a recognition that we were observing protocols, that everything was set up, that quote unquote should be, could perceived as right. But she just said, I have an elderly father that lives with us. And as I'm here, even though I don't use anybody else's phone, even though that I've got my mask on, when you stand next to me,
Hmm.
you have a mask on. It's just mentally almost like she just did. The risk was too great. And
Hmm.
so she just said to me, and what was interesting to your point is she proposed to me. She said, I can't do this anymore, but I want to propose to you what I think I can do from home. And if you feel that that's valuable, then I would like to do it. And
Hmm.
the sad part was, for us, is the number of things that she could do at home was too few on the list of things that I needed her to do.
Oh.
And so, but she's a great lady, and it's, if the world went back to normal and there was a vaccine, whatever it is, the phone rings and she's back in again, and she knows that. But it
Hmm.
was that moment of, I think, to the heart of this conversation is me and Vin and Billy looking at her and understanding what was just a real reality for her that she could not get across, and her giving us the grace, I guess, is also the word, to say, I know that what you're doing is right, but I need more than right. I need a
Hmm.
sure thing, and the
Yes.
only sure thing is to not place myself in this environment at all. And it all went fine, but that's kind of the heart of it, right? It's like,
Yes.
that we have to just kind of meet each other where we are, no matter what the conflict is, whether it's COVID or it's the politics or it's
Hmm.
race. It's like we kind of just have to meet each other where we are, right? And open our ears and our eyes and our minds and our hearts to just see what the other person is thinking, right?
Yes. And right. Which can take slowing down your reaction to things, right? And I love
Mm,
that she came to you in that way. Like that's a great story that fits right with this. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Is you wouldn't have known that, had you not had that conversation, had she just kind of like abruptly reacted and said, you know what, I just can't do this. This doesn't feel safe. And she walks out, right? Then you
right.
go, well, I don't know what's wrong with her. We're doing all the precautions, right? You would never have known that this was really about what was going on for her. And that's what we're talking about, is we don't know. And I don't know if there's other stuff that this fear, didn't get calmed, but I also am one of these people where I haven't had to go into an office. And,
Right.
most of my clients are working from home. But so there's, everybody has their own limits on what works for them and what doesn't. I think also one of these options is some people can come in and go, you know what, I just need like 4 more weeks, and I get it that you can't pay me, but I want to know that I can have my job when I come back.
Mm,
And maybe there's a way for that to work. Right.
right.
So, and because everybody's already lost some money if your business has been shut. So is 4 more weeks of one person's salary, is that going to actually maybe do you a favor by not having to pay for somebody when you don't have full running business yet again for some,
Mm-hmm.
some people?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what do we want to leave
Yes.
all of our amazing designer entrepreneurs with out there? Any sort of like top level
Yes.
things for us to think about, right?
Right. I definitely have some strategies for managing this to help your team, of employees come back together and just be stronger through this. So what you can do as the owner, right? The first one is just like you were talking about, you and your husband were back in the office when the employees were, right? You want to be where the employees are. So if the main office is open and you don't normally go to the main office, be at the main office. If your satellite
Mm,
office, is there and you're not usually there, be there. I don't know that you have to go around to job sites, but it depends on, would it be something that was a sign of solidarity with your employees, right? To say,
hmm.
I'm not going to put you in a place that I wouldn't go, right?
Right. Good point.
So
Good point.
definitely do that. And then my next one is to lean in ways that maybe you didn't in the past, and that's what we just were talking about. How do you better understand your employee while still kind of keeping those guidelines of, not directly saying, I need to know what you're worried about at home or what's going on, just how do I understand this better? How do I understand you better so that I can figure out what strategy can work? So lean in to them and try to understand where they're coming from. And the
I
next
like
one
that.
is good. And the next one, you're doing it. So good job. And don't get caught up. Here's a tough one, right? Because just like we have parents who want to be the best friends of their teenagers, and really the kids might need a little bit more guidance, right? They need the parent, not the friend. Just like the boss needs to be the boss. And what I want, this one is tough for some people, is just don't get caught up in commiserating about the negative or the fears. Okay. So stay present. If they're like complaining about the mask, well, how long we have to do this, or this is bull, whatever, you know, don't don't indulge that and say, you know what, you stay very present focused and you say, you know what, today we have to wear the mask and that's what we're doing, you know
Mm.
and today's a pretty good day otherwise, right? Like, I get you might be uncomfortable, but today's a pretty good day, so like let's just do a good job and have a good rest of the day, and stay very present. Whenever they talk about, well, what's going to happen when, or what if they shut us down again, hey, I can't live in that space. All I know is today I get to be open and have this business and give you a job. So like, let's just go with that for today. If tomorrow comes and that changes, we will deal with it. Right.
Mm.
So,
Yes.
because we don't know, and we don't have a guidebook for this, we don't know how this is going. So, um, literally I had an appointment with a hair appointment when my hair stylist was finally back open, and we did the whole protection and all that stuff. And I said, well, I came in a second time because I needed something done. As you saw me, I'm a totally different color than I was a few months ago. Didn't let
Yes.
that white come in. And I said, well, I came in today because I wasn't sure if you're going to be closed down again next week. And she goes, oh, they wouldn't do that to us. And they did. So we
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
how this is going to go. So you just stay
Right.
very present focused. The next one is set up ways to let your employees know that you care about them. This is one of those times where you're going to look to see what you can pull out to say, I care about my employees, that they're healthy, that they're happy, that they are taking care of themselves. Whether that means that you can get a discount code for the local gym, or if your budget has allowed for it, if you've got a big campus that you work at, can you bring in like a fitness trainer or something a couple of times a week to do those classes? Can you organize an employee Fitbit wellness program, because Fitbit has corporate wellness programs, I believe, that are free for having the app. You just need to kind of sign up your business for it. And then everybody can
Mm.
go and track each other and help each other get healthy, stay healthy through this. And then really importantly, when, for the businesses who, have, of course, have insurance, for health insurance, right? Look to see, check on your benefits. Do you offer an employee assistance program? And talk about getting mental health, going to therapists, going to counseling, that this is a time where the stress may seem overwhelming and it's okay to go and talk to somebody. And in fact, every insurance policy has mental health benefits at this point. But I mentioned the employee assistance program for the companies that have that to offer, because even when you go to an in-network provider, you end up with either, maybe you even have an in-network deductible, or you at least have a copay. So you're paying 20 or 40 bucks a time. So when you go to see a therapist, you might even, depending on how you're doing, start out at 2 times a week for a couple of weeks if you're really like in a bit of, too much crisis about all of this, right? So you might go 2 times a week. That's like $40 a week, maybe $60 a week, when you also have been out of work for a little while. So it doesn't really feel like that's an enticing thing to do. But if you have an EAP, you can get, they usually have 3 to 5 to 8 sessions that you can get with no copay or deductible. So then all of a sudden there's at least 6 sessions. That's a great start to therapy, where you get to then connect, you get to kind of know, oh, this person's going to be in my corner, and talk about it. But if you as the leader is not talking about the fact that stress affects people physically, mentally, it affects their relationships, and it's okay to talk about it, they're going to feel, they may feel like they can't that they wouldn't seek out those benefits, right? So if you normalize it, we all have to be aware of how everybody's dealing right now. And if you feel like you're just not relating to how people are able to get back to work easily, if you feel like coming to the office is really like overwhelming you, it would be a good time to reach out to a counselor. And if you call your insurance, you can get the names of like 5 or 6 therapists on your benefit plan, and then just look them up, Google them. Everybody has a profile online these days. Who looks like someone you want to talk to, right? That's a good way to start to gauge it. I know you can't tell until you talk to somebody, but that's how you might even find a therapist. But you can also post information about EAP, or even just that you have mental health benefits as a reminder, like in the break room or where your employees will be. You have to post your labor laws in the office somewhere, post up that stuff about what you offer on your health insurance plan. And why this is so important to pull out a wellness program and encourage your employees to take care of themselves by using their insurance benefits and things is that when they did that there was a research, I love numbers, right, and being able to measure things. And so they found, a Harvard research study found that for every dollar spent on employee wellness, the medical costs fell $3.27, and absenteeism dropped $2.73. It must be 2.73%, right? So essentially it's a 6-to-1 ratio on the money that you would outlay on a wellness program or some kind of discount in the community, that will come back to you in other costs and other savings that you're going to make. And so other ideas also are like, we have all these food delivery services. Can you just get like an affiliate code, right? Everybody online knows about affiliate codes, but the business owners can still call up and get an affiliate code and say, hey, can I give this out to my employee?
Right. As a little
and then
thank
you're giving
you or
them
something,
maybe right, like a little, hey, I know this is tough here, at least get a week free of these home meals, and if you like it, you get a discount for using the code, right? How can you let your employees know, just in whatever way you can afford to do? I said some of this doesn't cost anything because you're already paying for their health benefits, or you're just sending them over to the gym and getting a discount for them, right? And the gym is happy to take the new business, so you can get a discount code. It works out for everybody on that end, and you will come out being the boss that cared about their employees. You're also going to be seen when you don't commiserate about all those, the negativity. You're going to be seen as someone who leads in a calm way through all of this chaos, right? And then, of course, you're going to save money on employee turnover and the medical claims and the absenteeism. So those are all tremendous benefits. And when everybody's been struggling, everybody deserves whatever benefits we can get at this point. So
100%,
yeah.
100%. Yeah, I love these strategies for us, because sometimes you do just need to think out of the box a little bit on
Mm-hmm.
how can you show some compassion and care to the people that are working for you, and
Mm-hmm.
is to not underestimate that it's important to do, right? I think that's the thing. I think we sometimes forget that it matters, right? You just
Yes.
think, well, what do they care what I think? What do they
Mhm.
care what I do? What do I, you know what I mean? Of course, egregious things we know, but little nice things. I know with us, when the guys were installing awnings. We had
Mhm.
8 or 9 weeks straight in New Jersey where it was above 90 degrees
Ugh,
with 90% humidity. And they're going out every day climbing ladders. This is why, God forbid, Carlos fell off. I mean, they're tired, they're exhausted.
yeah.
And we just started putting, all this fruit. It was so funny. The first day I went out on a Sunday and I said, they're so tired. Let me get a bunch of, clementines and apples and
Mhm.
granola bars and stuff. And I'll put it on the table tomorrow morning. And I half thought that they wouldn't take it, that they wouldn't eat it, that it would, and literally it was gone in 2 days. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I'll go do that again. you know,
Yeah.
it
I
was
mean,
funny
any
because
little
as I
thing that
was
you can
doing it, I was
do.
like, this is silly, but then it wasn't silly.
Yes, that's it. Any little thing you can do. And then remember to use your words also. Recognize when they're doing a good job.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Recognize when, they might have, and I get that, like, I'm sure when they go to homes, the people have to wear the masks and stuff like that, but they're going to be running into difficult customers. They're going to be having days that have all this added stress, plus all that the other things that are going on in the world that we're talking about. So just remember to use your words to, hey, what a great job. I'm so, like, I'm so appreciative that you're on my team. And
Yes.
little ways that you can recognize them are going to go a long way. They need to know that they are not invisible to the big boss. And I'm sure that that is not anything that your employees deal with, but um, it's out there. There are big companies. I heard of one the other day where a company where somebody suggested, hey, could we do have them wear costumes on Halloween because they have to work, and it's a retail sort of business, and they don't normally do it, but they said, like, look, they need a little perk. They need to have a little fun. And the big company heads, like, from down, from some other big office across the country, said company wide, no, no Halloween stuff. And it was like, I'm sure that if we had the conversation with that boss, we would understand them better too, to understand where they were coming from on that.
Right.
But the
Right.
message that was sent, because it was just sent down as a no, it wasn't like, but they could do this or willing to do this. It was no
Right.
negotiation. It was just no. It was like, oh, it kind of defeated the person who was trying to organize it for them to take care of her employees. So it's one of these things where you gotta see what message am I sending out if I say no, if I just take just think, if because we're open, everybody should just be happy to be back at work, right? It's
Right.
different. We are in a different time. And as a business owner, you have to pay different attention to your employees in ways that some people might need a little nuancing around that.
100%.
Yeah.
It's so good. Such good advice, Colleen,
Thanks.
truly.
Well, thanks.
Now, before you go,
Yeah.
I want to just remind everybody that you have a book. Tell us a little bit about your book and what that's about and how that the listeners can get the book.
Sure. So the book is the 60-day plan for embracing your inner leader. I did write it for women, so it's 10 um, 10 strengths of strong female leaders, right? But they're really just 10 good strengths of leadership, right? But I did
Mm.
write it with stories about women, some some you don't. And but I say this because I'm going to write a version for men, but men are liking the book too. So if you don't mind
Oh.
that it's got a great big pink cover and stories about all sorts of women, it's a great little workbook. But it is a 60-day plan, so it has little exercises that I've been working with my clients on for the last almost 20 years to help empower them, help them feel stronger, help them feel more confident. And yes, it can help you in the corporate world in leadership, but maybe you just want to be more assertive in your own life. Maybe you just want to be feel more confident. It has all of that in there. And then at the end, it's an actual little workbook where if you just follow the steps, it will help you reach that goal of feeling like a stronger leader whatever that means to you. And you can get that for free. So I'm giving it out for free. I
Oh,
wrote it, of course, to sell, and I'm happy if people go to Amazon and buy it, but I really just wanted to put it in the hands of as many people as possible, as many women as
oh,
possible.
isn't that
And
awesome?
so,
Thank you.
yes. So you include, there'll be, I assume that we save, there'll be a link to that in your show notes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you can just go and download the PDF version for free right there. And then also for your listeners, I know you have listeners all across the country and probably outside the borders of that, and
Yes.
and I do work with business owners about, well, in general, on, helping them with, like, minimize employee turnover in general, improve customer service, improve their own leadership. So on top of that, now there's this, I can really kind of like one-on-one coach them around, like, where's your struggle with coming back to work, or where's your struggle with keeping your business growing through this, even if you didn't shut down, right? And so for your listeners, they can feel free to reach out to me through my website at coachingthroughchaos.com, and mention the show. And if they have a specific question, I'm happy to give them like a 20-minute phone call and see if I can help steer them in the right direction, and get them moving in that way.
Well, that's exciting. So they go to your website, coachingthroughchaos.com, and when they fill out the form, they say that they heard about you from this show, and then you'll know that you're happy to do a free 20-minute little,
Mm-hmm.
strategy. Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Very
welcome. And
nice. I
they would just go
appreciate
to
that.
and they would just go to my regular contact page on the website.
Okay, perfect. Love it. Love it. And then, yes, we will put the link for the book in the show notes for this episode. So you'll be able to just click on it and go to the download there. So, Colleen, thank you so much. I have to say, it really does take the time. We do need to take the time to just get out of our own head a little bit and understand how other people are processing things. And I love that you mentioned that way back at the top of the show, that we don't really know if somebody has a trauma that could have happened 10, 15, 20 years before we met them and they came
Mm-hmm.
to work for us, and how something like this could trigger that. I was like, that was the money line for me. It's like,
Uh,
oh, right.
yeah.
Something could have happened a long time ago and it still could be just sitting under the surface, getting poked at now, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. And if we had another hour, we could just talk about that and I could help you really understand that. But just on that level, that's enough to say, oh, I get it. I really don't know what somebody else has going on in their
Right.
mind right now.
Exactly, exactly. Well, thank you so much for helping us and teaching us a little bit and giving us these tips so that we can be better business owners and better leaders, and better for our people, so that ultimately we're all a little happier each day when we come to work, right?
Yes, well, you're welcome. And thanks. I have, on our couple of occasions now, really enjoyed talking to you, Luann.
Thank you. Pretty powerful conversation, right? I mean, there were several times that Colleen said something that resonated with me, both as a business owner and as someone who tries to understand that the people around me are all having their own experiences that don't necessarily line up with mine. Right? This year has beaten so many of us down, and we've learned through COVID and Black Lives Matter and through the political unrest that we all process everything differently. It hits us differently, right? Each of us is unique, and therefore our reactions are unique. And the thing is, it is important to understand that even if you have personally gotten to slow down, enjoy time with your family, and see the world in a more peaceful light, your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, they might be living in a completely different situation. All right. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to stop moving forward and you have to stop running your business. It doesn't mean that you have to abandon everything you've worked for and built. But it does mean that you have a responsibility to be compassionate, empathetic, and aware that there are people who are suffering, scared, and anxious. Right? The biggest takeaway from this episode is that as leaders, we have to normalize that. We have to normalize that there is struggle now, and that it's okay for each of us to ask for help and for the people around us to ask for us to help, right? Now, you don't have to be in the same experiences as your employees to understand that they might be struggling, and in order for you to show empathy to them, right? You can be aware, you can be open, you can show kindness, and you can let them know it's okay to not be completely okay right now. All right. And this is something that can be a good thing, not just now during COVID, but forever in the future, right? To be a better boss, to be a better person. We need to recognize that the people around us might be suffering. If we can set a precedent as leaders that it's okay to be vulnerable and to be open and to let people in and to let them know that we're human, then we can get to know each other better and we can build the trust and respect that makes it possible to have a long-standing positive workplace. All right. Now, Colleen has so much heart for what people are going through right now and so much empathy for those who are struggling, and it shows in her generosity. That's why she's giving away her book, The 60-Day Plan for Embracing Your Inner Leader, right now for free. All right, we're going to link that in the show notes so that you can download her book and find out how to show up now as a great leader. Her generosity isn't stopping there, though. She's offering also to give direct guidance to those of you who are looking to implement leadership strategies right now and maybe finding that a little bit difficult in this climate, okay? So Colleen can help. If you want, go to her contact page on her website at coachingthroughchaos.com. And if you mention the show in your message, she's offering a free 20-minute consult with you to give you tips, answer questions, and help you get started in the right direction. All right. Now, during the episode, Colleen shared a list of tips to how to be the best boss you can during these times. And I love these ideas. So we gathered them together and put them in the goodies portal for you. All right. So you go to luannigara.com/goodies, GOODIES. If you've already subscribed to the goodies list, you just go and you find it in your portal. If not, go and subscribe today. luannigara.com/goodies. All right. Now, this conversation was important for all of us, right? Especially if you are struggling with any kind of anxiety or fear or uncertainty in your life. And I want to take this time to share with you that my daughter, Christy, who many of you know since she has worked for me at the podcast for the last 3 years, is moving into her own thing right now. She will continue as my brand manager because, as I've told her, heaven knows I'll chase her down and chain her leg to my desk if she ever really, truly leaves me. Okay. But Christy is launching her own podcast in 2021. Yes, she is. It's called Sass Says, the Therapy Sessions We Didn't Know We Needed. Okay. You see, Christy has experienced postpartum depression with the birth of both of my fabulous little grandbabies, Lucia and Juan Carlos. And to add to this challenge of being in postpartum depression, Juanca, as we call him, was born 1 month before COVID and the world shut down. So much like Dr. Colleen described, so many emotions, okay, so many struggles that each of us were already going through were exasperated by COVID. But Christy knows for her, those feelings of anxiety were already there and that they just got worse because of quarantine. And actually, not just quarantine, but the actual fear of the COVID virus. Here she is with 2 little babies, right? So she said she felt all the feels: alone, sad, scared, confused, guilty. When she began to talk about it, she learned that many of her friends and acquaintances were going through similar emotions. Okay. And I have to say, thank goodness, through the help and guidance of her therapist, as well as talking about her experiences publicly, she has found her way through it. But she explains to me often, it's a real thing on the daily. Okay. And this was sort of hard for us in our relationship. And I don't mean hard like we didn't get past it. I don't mean hard like we had tension. But the truth is just as we talked about earlier about when you have employees and their experience is different than yours. I've never gone through anything like that. I didn't have postpartum depression. I've never experienced that. And so not only was it hard for me to recognize the signs, right? And she didn't know what was happening. It was hard to understand it until she got the help, is really what I'm trying to say. And the thing is that she now wants to be a light for others struggling with anxiety and depression and fear, right? Because she understands the difference before and after. When she looked around all of us in the family and she just was thinking, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? And we're all looking at her, well, you're a new mother, you're tired, and you're in COVID. And, it didn't occur to us that there was an underlying thing going on. And until, of course, that it got very long and it got several months in. And finally it was, well, maybe this and maybe that, right? And so the thing is, I want to tell you that Christy, as I said, wants to be a light for others struggling with this, all right? And I'm inviting you to join her email list, okay? She will be launching in the first quarter of 2021, and if you're on this list, you'll be notified when her podcast is live. She's intending to interview therapists and other professionals in the space, but she's also going to talk to real people like you, designers, mothers, fathers, candlestick makers, right? Each person sharing their story so that someone else can get the information and the help and the aha moment that they need to come through this, okay? I have to tell you, this little lady of mine is a pretty incredible human person, okay? And I am sure she is going to create a space of love and acceptance and information and strength. And if you think this is a space that you might like to be in, I invite you to go to sasssays.com, SASSSAYS.com, and sign up, okay? So, Sass says, the therapy sessions we didn't know we needed. Alrighty, now let's switch gears for a moment. If you are looking for a little diversion from the real world and all its, let's just call it, its reality, right? Join me for a virtual party. Join me and my 9 outstanding co-authors for a fun, fabulous book launch party. We're going to have some plain old laugh out loud fun. I mean, it's simple as that. I think we all need it, and we're just going to do it to have a good time. It's happening next week on December 10th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a free event. Spend an hour with us, laughing, connecting, relaxing, celebrating the fantastic business building information that these women have put together in the next book. Make a little time to reset, to look into each other's eyes, and to look and say, we can get through this. 2020, let's just close it out, right? Let's just turn that corner on 2020. And I'd love for you to come and help me congratulate these co-authors who have put their best practices and strategies into the chapter so that you can grow your design business, all right? So join us for the free event. Go to luannigara.com/launch. And we will send you the registration link, okay? luannigara.com/launch. And of course, the book goes on pre-sale on the same day, December 10th, okay? And you know what that means. If the book is on sale, that means Luann Live is just around the corner, okay? So Luann Live is going to be February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2021. And at the book launch party, we're going to be giving away prizes for Luann Live. But you have to be there to win them. So, okay. And Luann Live. I mean, come on. It's going to be jam-packed just like it was last year. All right. So the VIP day, don't forget that. This is also going to be off the hook as part of Luann Live. This year, the VIP day is sponsored by East End Interiors, which I'm so excited. And you're going to hear all about East End Interiors next week on the podcast. So please join us at luannigara.com/launch. All right. And my final thanks to Colleen for this inspiring episode. Whether you're struggling yourself right now with anxiety and mental health issues, or you are leading a community of employees who need you to stand up and show up, that it's okay to be vulnerable right now, then I hope that this helped you. Okay? You got this. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.